So I think it's charming that these conversations are being held, and no disrespect to anyone, but I heard the playback, and if you don't deal with the major issues, then what's the real value of these what I consider side conversations? If you don't talk about plant count, if you don't talk about fees, if you don't talk about purchase limits for patients, then what's the fuss?
Okay, well, as
very well said, Duke.
Okay, and I'm just going to say, in my opinion, this is all valuable information to the public. Number one, they're telling us where they are in the process right now. I know, Duke, that you're anxious to get going, and we're all anxious for this to get going. But we're being let in on what's happening as it's happening now. We're going to know that on Tuesday they're going to announce certain things. And of course, one of the most important things is the plant count. But that, was asked about, and they said, no, that we're not ready to do that yet. So, I mean, we're just seeing this process roll out. So I believe it's very, very important to a lot of us that want to get into the industry. And of course, it's important to the legacy producers, as Linda Trujillo calls them. And So no disrespect, Duke. You and I, we get along, and I just think that we're seeing it from a couple of different perspectives. But I think I was very excited to hear this stuff, and I think everybody else in the room is enjoying this as well.
And I understand, Larry, and it's not to debate it, but if you actually put down on a piece of paper everything meaningful that you couldn't already pick up and read in the statute, that you already haven't heard, one could have predicted that the first 15 minutes was to tell you how hard we are, how collaborative the world is, and kumbaya. The next 15 minutes, blah, blah, blah. I would ask you, because I've asked everyone who's called me and said, what do you think? I said, tell me what new item you learned. What specific things that will help you either enter the industry or understand how you're going to operate your current model today. And not one person could tell me anything.
Well, this is look, you guys have been probably meeting with these people for a while, off and on, I'm sure. But the fact that they're now doing this in public, I think, is very important. They had journalists there, AP.
But they're not doing it in public, is the thing.
No. But they're rolling this out so that they're telling us that there's going to be public hearings, for each thing that they propose, and that's where we need to speak up, like Chad said earlier. And Duke, I totally understand how important it is, as having the most locations in the state. You want to get started, and I get it. I've already predicted, weeks ago to my group of people here that I think you guys are going to be able to sell by Labor Day. That's my prediction. And they sort of talked about, the fact that it can be moved up closer. So I think that's probably going to happen. But this is exciting for some of us in the public, that have been maybe waiting 50 years or 20 or 10 or 5, for this to happen. And we've all been wanting to get into this industry. You're lucky enough to be in it. And so it's exciting for us. I do understand your point of view also, because, you guys, have to do when I say you guys, I mean all the LNPPs. So, yeah, it's just, it's exciting for us, and I hope you understand that. I'm sure you do.
Larry, if we're selling by Labor Day, which we will not be, if we're selling by Labor Day, I will give everyone on this group call right now a free ounce.
You know what, Duke? I will hold you to that 100%, Duke.
I will. And I'm gonna make
same thing with the haircut.
And Duke, I'm gonna
finish, Larry. Let me finish.
Okay, just
sincere. No disrespect. Let me finish.
Okay.
So, and I do mean that sincerely. I'll give you an ounce.
I want an ounce of concentrates, though, not bud. Okay, go ahead.
I'm so certain I'll give you an ounce in concentrate, Larry. Okay.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Okay. So let me tell you the rest of the story. I mean, yes, we're having conversations, and I don't want to disrespect folks, but I've heard this from, and I say the proof is in the pudding. Put their feet to the fire and show me that they mean what they say. Let me finish. hold on. What I mean is that the fact that we're having these little snippets and spoon-fed, you got to understand, it's a clock that's running. By the fact that they filed documents with the State Records Department on May 5th, and the fact that they're now having this publication on May 25th, it's because that's the date the State Records Division publishes every 2 weeks. And the reason they're running May 25th is so that they can have a public hearing 30 days after, which is June 29th. It has nothing to do with, it has to do with trying to meet the September 1 date. It has nothing to do about transparency. If they don't publish, and they don't care if it's right, wrong, or indifferent on May 25th, if they don't publish, they miss the September 1 date just to get the licenses out on time.
Okay, so let me ask you. So what are they supposed to publish by May 25th?
They're just getting a placeholder. You heard about a dummy number, which I've never heard of that before.
Uh-huh.
A dummy number.
Okay.
So they want a placeholder of a proposed rules to start the licensing for the legacy operators, and a placeholder, i.e. a dummy number for the plant count and the fee structure. That's all you're going to see.
I can tell you.
Yeah,
what...
that's why Trujillo wouldn't speak on the plant count or the price structure. She said it could possibly be canopy still.
That's right.
So what would you prefer, canopy or count?
I'm going to tell you, you have to weigh several factors. I mean, it's not an easy answer, even though I think it is. This model that exists today in New Mexico has been molded around a plant count. Because you got to balance out. Let me explain. You got to balance out. The statute requires them to have a per plant fee. A canopy is a model you move to, which I would like us to move to, but it doesn't work with a per plant fee. A canopy requires you to pack the plants in tight, make them smaller, and flip them quicker. Mm-hmm. But that means you can't pay a per ticket per plant. I
totally agree with you, and I think there's still things to be fixed. Okay, we've discussed it with in this group before that the per plant thing is not good, and especially at $50, it's terrible. And it should be per, if they're going to have some kind of a fee, it should be per harvested plant, and not per flowered plant, because some could die in between, and something could happen to them. So your whole crop, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm saying
it's money back on us.
Yeah, and I say it should be per harvested. What do you think of that suggestion?
Well, we met with them, and I think we may have been introduced to the first iteration of what this was supposed to be, and I think they wanted to see in a Zoom call what my facial expression was. Now, keep in mind, they didn't say just a per plant fee and just a canopy. What they proposed to me, and I'm telling you straight up, recorded and proof of it, they said, here's what we're thinking, Duke. A per plant fee and a square footage limitation. Both elements. And I said, you're right. You do that, and this thing will get crazy very quickly.
Oh, yeah. We'll have the legacy market kick up real fast.
Right. Which legacy market?
I know, it's confusing now.
It's confusing. We got to get them to change
the
that
underground
term,
legacy market.
Duke, we got to get them to change that.
The real scaled up operators. How's that?
There you go. Right?
How about the current licensed producers? Sounds good to me.
It will be and what I explained to the superintendent was, I was at a grow about a week and a half ago in Tucson. They've got 138,000 plants in flower right now. And they're not the biggest operator around. They're not even the biggest operator in Tucson. But what I said is, they're learning how to farm. We've only taught New Mexicans how to garden. We're gardening. Whether it's 1,750 or 2,000 plants, we're gardeners. And the fact is, I asked, do you think that legalization is coming across this country? They said, yes, and we hope sooner than later, she said. If that happens, when those walls come tumbling down, I'm going to be looking to the west there, against a competitor who can produce it at $1 a gram. and our little producers in New Mexico are going to be wiped out like a tsunami. So if we don't teach ourselves to be able to fish, hunt, and survive, we're going to face a crisis. And about the only survivors in New Mexico left will be the illicit market. That's what I'm sincerely afraid of, not just for Ultra Health, but for the real. I think a lot of folks are going to reach into their pockets, pull out their IRAs, their 401ks, and their retirement, and may be surprised that they're being set up for failure.
I totally agree. We discuss that all the time. If you're undercapitalized, even with the micro licenses, it's going to be, look what happened to the hemp industry, where the first couple of years we had maybe 150 or more licenses to growing hemp, and then it was a disaster. It was a glut and blah blah blah. And I think there might be under 20 this year. So you're doing hemp too, so you probably know all this. I forgot.
I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah. I hear it. Well, I'm just like a historian and try to tell what I hear and so forth. But so anyway, I'm agreeing with you on a lot of stuff tonight, Duke. Which is because reality, what's real is real. Does anybody have a question for Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, actually, Duke, if you'd like, go ahead and introduce yourself. A lot more people joined the panel, and some of them are from out of state. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and let the people know who you are.
As Chad said, I'm Duke, and I represent, depending on what day of the week and what time of the day it is, but generally speaking, I represent Ultra Health. And for New Mexico, we're the largest operator. We have the largest cultivation. We have, actually, folks, we have now 26 stores open today. I got 10 more under construction. Probably be at 40 by December 31st. We are the largest minority-owned cannabis company in the U.S. And, thankfully, we've been very blessed, and we probably have 25% of the statewide market.
Oh, definitely. Thank you, Duke. Anything else you want to
add? That's pretty much it. I think we've been engaged and I don't mean to say this braggadocious, and I apologize that it comes across like that at times, but, I feel very close to the draft of that bill. We drafted that bill starting in April of 2020. And I would tell you I accept responsibility, culpability for about 80% of what's in that bill. But in the final 60-day session and the special session, there were tweaks made to it that, I'm not going to take responsibility for. And I think, when you get right down to it, there's a lot of disconnect in this bill, and I hope we can fix it. You saw the first shoe drop with Mr. Barker's lawsuit, and I think he's done the right thing, and we clearly support that lawsuit. I think the superintendent's wrong about what medical card holders can do as of June 29th at 12:01. I think the superintendent's wrong about the fee structure, and I'm just shocked at some of the things we're doing. I don't know if you guys know it. I'll give you some highlights. For example, on June 29th, if you listen to what is being advocated, do you know that, for example, for our company, I've got 15 employees right now who are 18, 19, and 20 years of age. And allegedly, come June 29th, I've got to fire them?
I never thought of that. I didn't think of that either.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's not right.
All right, so is that in the bill, or can the rules be changed?
That's the point. That here's an example of who wrote the bill. We wrote the bill to say it was intended for just those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and 20 and 11 months and 19 days have been working for us all along on the medical side. They legally can work right now. So you tell me what fact has changed that they're no longer able to work in the industry. And their interpretation is because they're now doing non-medical sales.
Okay, so why can't they stay in your medical?
But they've actually lessened the qualifications for people because of them saying it taking away from the DOH and those HIPAA rules and stuff, they're not asking for background checks or anything like that anymore because of the social security numbers and stuff. So
I have an idea.
that doesn't make any sense.
I have an idea,
So,
Duke.
so if their duties are less, their intensity's less, the security's less, why can't they work anymore?
I get it.
Right.
I totally get it. But you know what? If you know that, I get it. I wish they could change it. But if it doesn't get changed, you should just guarantee them their jobs back. You know, when they become of age, guarantee that to them because they lost. You know,
Of course we'll do that,
Yeah,
Larry, but that
yeah.
doesn't help them today.
No, but
they
that's
want a break in service.
that's why it's
Yeah, they lose their
important.
income.
That's why it's important, though, to know about this process and hear about these rules before they get inked, and have public hearings so that the public can hear about these things. That's where they make changes, and that's why people need to speak up.
But we've talked to him directly, and I'm not trying to criticize Linda. She's doing the best job you can. But if you take the people on this group call right now, if you take the folks who are in the industry, we've been in this business how long now? Then you need to listen, not just have a book show, not just have a meet and greet. Listen to the reality. When the superintendent and others have stated that, the DOH will stay engaged going forward. I'll argue that that's not true. I remember writing the act, and the act says, and I'll read it and I'll show you chapter and verse. It says, listen to me, the power, duty, and authority. That sounds pretty powerful, right? The power, duty, and authority is transferred to the RLD, except for the patient registry. So whether the DOH wants to mingle, they can't.
No, I totally get that.
They said that in this RLD meeting that we were just listening to, is that the DOH is still going to hold the unit.
Yeah, well, from what I
They
understand,
said that was their interpretation. Is that they interpreted it.
From what I
that way.
understand-
And then they also mentioned that they do have litigation that's underway, so she couldn't speak too much about it as well.
I don't think they're doing anything at the DOH right now, honestly. I think that, I don't know where Dominic has been. I think he's been handling this part of the, part of the pandemic stuff. So I just don't hear anything going on up there.
I'm not frustrated. I can assure you, I'm not frustrated. This is part of the process, but I do think that if you come right out of the gate and you don't understand what your role is in relationship to the DOH, and you're going to pick and choose what things you think you want to keep and what you're going to let them have, that's not your choice. It's in the statute.
There's obviously going to be a big lag, as they said in this meeting that we've been playing the audio of. There's going to be a big lag between the time the RLD is in control. The control division is in control.
There is not going to be a lag, Larry, and I'm sorry I sound confrontational, but the law is specific. Come strike of midnight, June 29th, 12:01, they don't get to choose to lag. They have no choice. At 12:01,
they're in charge.
It is the law of the land that the power, duty, and authority transfers to RLD.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yes, I totally agree. That's exactly what's going to happen.
So come that date, Duke, are you guys going to start allowing patients to purchase, the 2 ounces and all that, or just kind of give them the middle finger and, say whatever, or just kind of wait what the court kind of says?
I kind of hopeful that we won't have to show them the middle finger, but or the little finger, but I do think that the courts are going to expedite this matter. Think about that, and I think patients should be totally upset. The law is on June 29th at 12:01. Any Tom, Dick, or Jose has a right to buy 2 ounces at any time from down the street, from Colorado even possibly. You shouldn't be caught coming across state line, but technically you can be in possession of 2 ounces. But suddenly medical patients cannot?
Okay, but wait a second.
Oh, no,
Wait, hold on a second. Not every Tom, Dick, and Jose can buy. Only medical patients can buy. Are you saying that you think that the way the rules were written that you were involved with, that you could legally start selling and I could get my ounce of concentrates by selling to any Tom, Dick, or Harry on June 29th?
Listen to the superintendent's interview with Andy Lyman. and one of those prosecutors, the expungement people, they said, while we don't encourage it, and I want to be clear, I'm not trying to encourage illicit activity, but if you buy from your homie on June 29th at 12:01 and you have 2 ounces or less, you have the full lawful legal right to obtain, possess, purchase, transport with no fear of prosecution. You are immunized from prosecution. All right?
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And ask them directly. It isn't about, see, what was happened when the act was written. There is a logic here. We were hoping on or about the same time the effective date of the act, the non-medical sales or adult sales, whatever you want to call them, would be happening spontaneously. But the July 1 date for beginning adult sales got pushed to October, then got pushed to December, and then got passed with the no later than April 1, 22. But we never changed the date that a person can lawfully have purchase, obtain, transport 2 ounces, which begins on June 29th. So they said, yeah, you technically could, long as you don't have more than 2 ounces, you will not be prosecuted. Now, the person who is selling may be at risk if they're trafficking without a license, but you, the individual, you can possess, purchase, obtain, transport up to 2 ounces. No question. So
you can also be gifted as well, right?
That's correct. Now, so why can't a medical patient have the same lawful right? And it's not defined as commercial patients. It says any person over the age of 21. Well, a medical patient is a person over the age of 21, and in my opinion has more lawful rights than a random.
I agree, and that's how it should be, because there's really no incentive for anybody to remain a patient if that's not the case. I mean, you're going to have people just leaving the program.
Well,
and already, it's going to shrink once legalization hits, but it's going to go even more if we don't have more protections for patients.
But the tax,
it's almost like you're protected less.
The tax benefit will help patients who are really, a lot of them are using this as medicine for real reasons. Okay.
All right, let's talk about that tax benefit they just took away from you. So, if a person has a right to buy 2 ounces, if a person has, because Larry's right, the superintendent has now ruled that if you buy more than what the DOH determined to be an adequate supply, you will be taxed for that.
Who's trying to speak? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Ishel. I was trying to comment on something LS had said back
yes,
a few minutes ago.
Please.
So I do understand what you're saying as far as the way that it's written. And I just want to give like a really quick background. I was raised in California. My family, pretty much all of my family has law enforcement background. I moved to Colorado when they legalized, and I lived there for almost 6 years. There's the letter of the law, and there's the spirit of the law. And the letter of the law may read that way, but in the spirit of the law, what is going to stop cops from not harassing us on that day, on that time? They're not going to listen to us standing here arguing with them over a law. They're just going to ticket us or take us to jail. So I get what you're saying, but it doesn't really, like, in theory, it doesn't all the way play out that way.
Okay, well, I'm a little confused about the exact issue that you're talking about. On the 29th at 12:01, every New Mexican that's 21 years or older is going to be able to at least grow. That we know. Duke, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we all know, that they can grow 6 plants, right, Duke?
That's correct.
Okay.
I understand that, yeah.
So are you talking about? Are you? I'm just not clear, Shel. What your issue that I said you're talking about?
Okay, so you were saying pretty much that I guess in theory you were trying to say that anybody could go purchase.
Oh no, I was asking Duke if anybody could go purchase. I've said all along that and Duke knows. Duke, as he just said, it helped write the law. So Duke, do you feel that? And you said that any Tom, Dick, or Jose could go buy on that day. But if one of the LNPPs that are currently licensed and are going for relicensing and so forth, if they were to, let's say, open up early, do you think that would jeopardize their license going forward, knowing that they might have been doing the wrong thing?
Oh, it's a two-part question. So Michelle was asking the spirit versus, we understand that the law is that they can buy, but who's to prevent patients or adults over the age of 21 being simply hassled by law enforcement?
Okay, yes.
And that part, I agree, that risk is real, but I think we've got, 45 days left to say it over and over and over and over again. You can't prosecute. And we're going to do a few surprises along the way. I'm not going to let it out now, but we plan prior to that date having a few very public announcements, printed announcements, and saying this is the law of the land. Because I think on that June 29th at 12:01, you're right. There's going to be a lot of folks pulled over, and folks have got to have little pre-printed cards in their hand and clip it out of your newspaper or off social media, and you've got to show them this is the law. I think in this case, because it's not a small shift, this is a complete 180 pivot. I think they will better understand it than incremental change. June 29th, 12:01, no prosecution. Any adult over age 21 who obtains, purchase, transport, the thing I said before, up to 2 ounces. I think there's going to be more universal understanding. Now, on the second part, Larry asked, now, will we play like good little boys and girls and not sell more than what the DOH or the RLD has determined? All I'm going to say is let's just wait and see, because I'm not going to commit. I'll commit to a more certainty that we're not going to sell beginning Labor Day than I will to tell you that we're not going to sell on June 29th. We're going to see what the judge says, and if the judge is willing to give us an answer on a timely basis.
And by the way, I said before Labor Day. I didn't say on Labor Day.
I'll give you the day after Labor Day.
Okay. All right. So now I know where you're coming from for sure.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem. Does anybody else have any questions as well? I mean, don't be afraid to ask. I mean, Duke, I appreciate you coming in and joining us. I just wanted to reach out because I know some people in here, don't ever get a chance to speak with people in the industry, especially in New Mexico, because it feels like it's been so shut off to the rest of the world for so long that, some people are like, oh my God, we get to talk to somebody about it. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, Duke's here, like you said, he's, part of Ultra Health, or is Ultra Health and or representative, depending on the day and the time. So yeah, please don't be afraid to ask questions. This whole industry is new in New Mexico, and we're working the kinks out as we speak. And as we have this conversation, there's litigation and everything going on.
But I'm sure Duke does want to talk about litigation, like the other side did want to talk about it also, right, Duke?
Of course.
So anyway, let's see. I did have another question for Duke. Damn.
And by the way, Larry, we are always willing to talk about litigation. I think we've brought 8 cases forward, and I think we've won 8 cases, so we're pretty comfortable with it.
I was really sort of being facetious. I know your scorecard, dude. It's impressive.
Yeah, the state's over against you guys. That's not deniable.
So Duke, currently, you could open up a consumption lounge. What are your plans on that?
It's one of those things you don't want to be last, but you're not certain you want to be first either. So until we can figure out the level, the hassle factor, and I do include law enforcement in that, until we realize whether they're going to park down the street and watch people come out and then pull them over, until we can resolve the issue of insurability. I'm not going to risk our license and realize that the first person who has an unfortunate event feels that, they've got a lawyer that thinks they have a class action or a PI injury, a personal injury lawsuit against us. So I don't think you're going to see a rush to the door for consumption lounges unless we can be protected with adequate insurance. I think that's the big hang up right now is insurance.
So tell me about the insurance industry for cannabis. Is it hard to find companies to... I mean, is there such thing as crop insurance, by the way?
There is a small market, but the price is too high.
Uh-huh.
You can buy insurance for just about anything. You can have insurance. I can insure our bet about whether we begin sales on or about Labor Day. Okay, I can buy a policy.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll take some insurance. I can hedge my bet that way.
But you won't like the price, but that's the problem.
Not even worth it, huh?
That's right. So it's a matter of cost.
Well, it's all going to change. How do you feel about how soon federally we're going to be able to, operate as a real industry with all the tax situation, 280, all the Schedule 1 stuff?
I think the feds are going to talk about it. I think they're going to make stepwide progress. I think they'll fix banking first, and we'll be able to bank. I think then we'll go from banking to being able to deposits and write checks, which we're doing right now. We'll make it sound like it's a success, which we're doing now. We'll move to lending, and we'll move to credit card processing. In reality, I'm not going to go through the entire clockwork, but true legalization where the boundaries come off of interstate commerce between states, probably 60 months, 5 years out.
Wow. Well, I hope it's sooner than that for sure. And maybe we should have like a Duke coin. Maybe we should have a coin for the pot industry, and start an NFT. Sarah, you'll be happy that I brought that up, I'm sure. Jason.
Right. There we go.
Jason, did you have a comment, bro? Welcome.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Larry, long time no
Yeah, man.
chat.
Jason's from Massachusetts, and he's an incredible grower and unbelievable, Duke. This guy is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had a few comments on a couple of items, so I definitely felt I'd come on up. I was doing some stuff while listening to everybody in the background, so that's why I didn't jump right up. But first off, absolutely. If the cops want to arrest you, they may find a way to arrest you. You have to be watching. You have to be careful about driving under the influence. You have to still do things to protect yourself. Even though you're allowed to have cannabis, doesn't mean you can drive under the influence of cannabis. And the arrests from a federal standpoint have actually increased over the last year. So just because you might be safe from your friends in the state doesn't necessarily you're safe from your federal friends. So that's the first comment I wanted to make. So and again, it's going to depend on the cop and how he feels and how he wants to treat the person. Obviously, once you get to the prosecution end of it, unless you did something, something that they really could nail you for, most of the DAs aren't going to go after you, unless, of course, you were involved in an accident or something along those lines. So, if you do get pulled over, I recommend you follow the Pot Brothers script and don't talk about it. And, follow their script. If you're not familiar with the Pot Brother Attorneys at Law script, you ask why you're being pulled over. When they ask you what you've been doing, you say, I'm not discussing my day. And then you ask, am I free to go or am I being held? And if you're being held, then you shut the fuck up and you wait for your attorney. So just because it's legal to have it doesn't mean that they won't try to arrest you for having it while driving. So that's first. Secondly, consumption lounges, we still don't have like normal cafes and things like that where you can go in and purchase here in Massachusetts. And talking to one of the guys who works on a lot of the Massachusetts legislation and stuff, he said it's still going to be a while. What they were able to do here in Massachusetts was get some private clubs that allowed people to consume, and it's a BYOB type of a situation, or a BYOC, bring your own bud or bring your own cannabis.
Right, no sales.
Yeah, no actual sales, but they do provide a clean, safe space, which is great for birthday parties, wedding events. They do bingo, they did comedy night, they do all sorts of great stuff. So you can actually build a community around that area. Everybody's a private member. You agree when you agree to be a member, you agree not to sue the club over the fact that you're taking in secondhand cannabis smoke and those normal type of liability things. But that's the only available solution here in Massachusetts. It's not really very much different from an Elks or any one of those private clubs where people drink under their own rules, bottle clubs and things like that. So that's what they've been able to do in Massachusetts. They still have not gotten to consumption lounges, but that's, to me, that's where a lot of opportunity is if you can provide a space, the community will come to you. And there's only a couple spaces, and they're usually pretty busy, especially, before COVID, they were booked all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine that COVID really put the kibosh on that industry for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Jason, you spurred me on to a great question for Duke. Duke, the federal thing, okay? Do you have dispensaries on the other side of the checkpoint, and how do you deal with that? And are there going to be any changes now for residents who are traveling back and forth, or for you supplying your dispensaries?
Again, long as we have this conflict between federal and state law, we're going to have problems with the checkpoints. We have locations on both sides of the checkpoint. We have one location that literally sits across the street from the city of El Paso and the state of Texas. Across the street, you cross one street and you're in New Mexico, and you can come to our dispensary across the street to the south and you're in El Paso, Texas. So we have had visitors from Border Patrol going through the parking lot, looking in vehicles, which they have a lawful right to do, unfortunately, looking for a product. We've been detained at checkpoints. I've had cash seized. I've had employees pulled over. I've had product seized. So, the short answer to what your question was, it will remain a problem until the El Paso sector gives guidance to these checkpoints not to do enforcement checks. And I don't think that that's going to come any day soon until directed by Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and it really does apply. Those district attorneys make a decision one way or another, whether they're going to enforce the laws or whether they're going to, or whether they're just going to back off and focus their energies on other things. And that's really where that guidance comes from. So that was the first two. The third thing was the federal. And I'd love to see them do the banking and go that route like they had originally been talking about. But it sounds like, from what Schumer's been saying, and some of the other folks have been saying, is that they're really trying to go straight for the descheduling and the full blown removal of it, not going after the pieces and parts, because they don't want to have multiple fights over it. They want to get it done in one shot, which will make it more difficult to actually get it done. So I'm not overly optimistic, Duke, unfortunately, that they're going to do banking, which is absolutely what they should have done a long time ago to get things rolling. But descheduling would be fantastic. But then you're still going to have this state-by-state issue where the state can still say, yeah, you know what? No, we still don't want cannabis, even if it's federally legal, and we're not going to let you drive through our state to bring those products. So it's definitely going to be a fight. I don't know how much longer. It's going to be a while. I really I hate to. I love the fact that we've come as far as we have, and it's amazing. It's hard not to be optimistic, but in my mind, we still have a long way to go.
Jason, when you say descheduling, can you elaborate? Because that's a huge catch-22 to the industry. It has the potential to obviously open markets, but it has the unbelievable potential to shut everyone out of the market. So I was curious if you could elaborate on that a little more.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this is what I've been hearing. There's a great show on every day called State of Cannabis Radio News Hour. If you haven't listened to it, check it out on Clubhouse. They
Absolutely.
have, yes, just tremendous professionals talking about this stuff and what's actually going on in the industry. But there's two schools that are looking at that. One is to take it from a type 3 to a type 1, which would be to lower the scheduling value, which would absolutely have major impacts on the industry and is not the route to go. Because it's still then a controlled substance and we still have to deal with all those issues. Descheduling is also possibly problematic, as you mentioned. That would be removing it completely from the Controlled Substances Act. And there are, I think California is one of the places, if I'm not mistaken, that is actually working on passing changes to their laws that say if you were in the industry when it was legal by the state and it becomes federally legal, you will not be disqualified from having your license passed through that process. And I think that's really where a lot of people are concerned, is that if it becomes federally legal and descheduled, they could come in and say, well, you were acting prior to this law and your license is no longer good. You now need to reapply in this other way. So There's definitely some concerns out there about that. I know some of the states are working to act towards that already to try to help alleviate that issue. But yeah, there's definitely some concern there that some of the existing current licenses could in some way, shape, or form be undone by that type of a descheduling of cannabis completely. So I do understand that's about as much information as I retain on the topic, though.
Daniel, what were your concerns, Daniel?
That's it. That's more or less the same. I just didn't know if those in the room understand the importance of, the MORE Act and the descheduling and what that entails, right? And there's people that sit on both sides of that. But like Jason had mentioned, a descheduling to Schedule 2 or Schedule 1, that puts it still in a pharmaceutical hands and it shuts the doors to everyone in the industry. It'll collapse the industry. And arguments can be made on the both sides, for one, for the other. But when you're looking at the dynamic of descheduling it like that, it would put it in the pharmaceutical range, and that's where it would, again, shut the doors. So that's just where I sit kind of, in that, that area, right? Really want it federally legal. I want to open the intercommerce. I want that free market. But, a lot has to be done playing into that, like Jason said. We're sitting in a really, really unique time when there's no other time when something has been legal and illegal at the same time. And so we're really running this, I heard it being explained, we're flying a plane while building it at the same time. And so, I just like to make sure that everyone understands the importance of certain topics and aspects just a little deeper so that we all understand that we're moving in the same direction for the same fight.
Right on, man. I totally get you. Duke, do you have thoughts on this?
My only belief is pretty consistent with Daniel that, there's pros and cons. I kind of am supportive of states' rights. A physician who has a license to practice in New Mexico should practice in New Mexico and is automatically not granted a right to practice in Colorado, Arizona, or Texas. So, I think the states gave birth to these industries. The state labored through the challenges of building these industries. And I still think the states should benefit if there is some tax revenues before the feds say, you know what, we sat back and we left the conflict in place and we saw that people got prosecuted and we hassled you at checkpoints, but now we're ready to play because there's a big industry with lots of revenue. That doesn't seem quite fair.
And that's where a lot of the industry right now with the laws being made, it's kind of that same argument, right? A lot of this tax money is going to the enforcement agencies to help provide them with the money to support. But the industry has a huge issue with that because, again, you're turning around and giving those that have been prosecuting us for years the ability to make money off of something that we worked hard to push, we have sacrificed everything to get where we are right now.
Definitely, we're going to have to work together on that too. And that's what, another reason why I always stressed when I was an advocate, showing up to things is really important. Because like today, with the hearing that they had, I didn't get to make a public comment because we didn't know what was going on. And that's not really fair because now they get to make a decision, but they don't get to hear the comment from someone else who may know something. Then again, they've been talking behind doors with other people, so it probably wouldn't have mattered either way. But, at least to be able to make that comment, you should be able to have that opportunity.
What hearing are you talking about?
Not the hearing, the meeting today they had with the reporters.
Well, it was a press junket. Duke's right about that. But for, like, I said earlier, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being able to hear how it rolls out. So anyway, we're going over any.
But I think Chad's point is it shouldn't have just been for the press. So, stuff like that should be for the general public. We shouldn't have to backdoor that information.
Well, I don't think they should hold a news conference every day, but I think what they were saying is that they're announcing how they're going to roll out the information to the press. Duke, isn't that your impression as well?
I'll stick to my belief. This is a book show. They're out there working the media, and I think that's admirable to a point. I think the devil's in the details.
Okay, well, we need to know the details, and we need to know the details. And the fact that they announced that there will be, when they announce these things, there's going to have to be a 30-day announcement and then have public comment on it. So I look forward to that part of it, and that's what Chad was saying, and that's what's going to be coming. But can you imagine? I mean, look, can you imagine, all those deadlines, Duke, that you were talking about before? These people, they have to have the applications for all these licenses, your licenses, the medical-only licenses for micro, and all these different licenses. They have to have these applications written and ready so that they can be turned in by September 1st, is my understanding. So they're going to have to be, published, definitely in August, and there's going to be thousands of them. And I think, Duke, the deadlines that they're going to miss is that 90 days to tell you if you get a license or not, because I don't think they're capable of going through the amount of licenses that they're going to be getting.
Even with a structure out here in Oakland, you're 7 months out of a license. And there's tons of applications still going through, right? And so I can put an application in, go through the process, getting the paperwork, repeating the same process, giving the same paperwork back, and in about 7 to 8 months, I can assure myself getting a license. It'll be interesting to see how fast the process is vetted.
Duke, what do you think about the amount of licenses? Is it totally wide open? I mean, are they going to just issue everybody a license if they meet a certain criteria? Or is there any cap anywhere?
I think there is the lipstick on a pig kind of cap, and meaning that I don't think there is a legal enforceable mechanism for them to limit the number of licenses.
Okay, but that okay. So, but there's going to have to be obviously. I would like to know the criteria on what would be wrong in an application that would say these people shouldn't get a license. I want to know all that stuff.
So we kind of talked to them. I want you to keep in mind there's two directions on licenses. The difficult pathway has been the former Department of Health and is probably similar to what Daniel has talked about in California or other markets. It is the license methodology where Larry goes out and Larry says, I want to do these good deeds and open up a dispensary. Larry has to go out and lease the space, put in cameras, put in all kinds of money in, do a remodel, and then he calls the DOH and says, would you come look at it? And they say, we'll get to you in about 6 months. And Larry's sitting there going, wait a minute, I paid all this money in hopes of it. That's method one. I actually think RLD's deciding not to use the DOH model, and what they've advocated in our conversations, and I'm supportive of it. Larry will attest that he has cameras. Larry will attest that he has all the right precautions in zoning. Larry will submit online all his documentation, and Larry will receive a ticket for his license and be able to operate. Now, Larry is subject to a post-inspection after he's even gone to business, and they're going to say, here's all the things Larry promised to have done, and now let me see if he's got the cameras working, if he's done this, he's done that, but you will be subject to an audit. And so for a certain period, it's going to be very much focused on getting tickets, what I call licenses, in people's hands to operate. And it's going to be a little bit of an Oklahoma experience.
Yeah.
It's going to be in a bit of a wild west.
I'll give you a little.
What you
I'll
just
give you a
said,
little
Duke,
bit
is
of.
exactly what Trujillo said during the meeting today, actually.
Go ahead, Nick.
That's right on point.
Nick, you
No,
went.
I was just... No, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Oh, okay. I was just reiterating that that's exactly almost word to word what Linda said in the meeting today, that which Duke was just stating.
Right. Okay. Anyway, yeah, exactly. By the way, a little bit of history, Duke. Larry in 2010, the Larry you were just talking about, had to go wake early in the morning and go to the Roundhouse and talk to Governor Richardson in those meetings they used to have where you give everybody 5 minutes, and to try to get Dominic Zerlo to get off his ass and to go have some site visits to because we had all these people waiting for their applications, and they had site visits the next week.
Well, I can tell you that Duke submitted location after location, as y'all recall, and we waited up to 13 months, and they never came out to inspect until we sued them in court. And the judge ruled that it's a ministerial duty, and you've got 30 days to issue us a license. And they've been pretty good since that lawsuit.
And you should have learned from my experience. You should have just gone right to the governor.
No comment.
Okay. I think the silence was the comment, and we could be talking about the last two governors at least. So yeah, Nick, any other comments? We missed some of what you said.
No, I'll stay on pause right now. I'm walking the dog, so I'll wait till I get home to jump in.
Absolutely.
My phone's jumping out, I think.
Anybody else in the audience have any questions?
Yeah. Oh, no, I think we should do the Oklahoma thing. The Oklahoma license process was pretty simple. I mean, everything was online, got everything done in 90 days, and, I mean, our license certificate to us and everything. I definitely hope they go that direction as far as licensing.
Up, where'd he go?
Oh man,
Did you knock him off as a speaker, Chad?
I don't know what happened, dude. He just got moved down. He may have done it to himself. There you go. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I might have touched something, but no. Yeah. Anyways, Oklahoma. Yeah, those guys. You know, they had the most licenses out than anybody else in last year or so. It's Wild West out there, and they're doing inspections now. The inspectors are super friendly. They have a list on their website that tells you, exactly what, they're looking for and stuff. And it was all in the rules and stuff. Yeah, you needed your cameras. You had to have your GPS coordinates for where you were at to show that you weren't close enough to a school or anything like that. They have a certificate of compliance that the county has to give you that you work with. And then all your background checks and all that fun stuff. And then, your business stuff where it shows, who owns what. Because in Oklahoma, you're out of state's only allowed to own 25%, supposedly. But they've made things around it too. So, but I mean, as far as the licensings go, they were super friendly, super attentive, and I was really impressed, because knowing how they do stuff here in New Mexico, I was like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. And then we got online, and me and the family did it ourselves. It was pretty simple.
Hey, Josh, what was the fee in Oklahoma per plant?
They don't have no fee for plant. It's $2,500 for unlimited plants. They have you pay $500 now to Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. Also, there's a lawsuit right now in Oklahoma over Metric, a seed to sell program, because they're charging 45 cents a tag, and then 10 cents like a package tag or whatever. So there's a lawsuit going on right now. Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority just was announcing they're going to try to shove some emergency rules down everybody's throat on Monday. So they probably have to use Metric. So it's interesting over there right now too. And there's grows over there, like Duke was talking about Tucson and stuff, 136,000 plants. There's guys over there that, there's acres and acres. You look for people that are talking about extracting, tons and stuff. Like, sounds like hemp. It is a huge market. The consumer wins. I'll be honest with you there. The quality of their medicine is way above anything, that we have here. The prices are amazing. You can get amazing concentrates for $25 a gram and under. The higher end buds only $35 to $40 an eighth. So and you can even find it cheaper if you go to the cities. These are just rural community prices that I'm throwing out.
By the way, Josh, it's good to have you back, and I know you're back and forth as well. But I was trying to source some grams of hash or wax, whatever today, or FICO, whatever, and it seems to be like $70 a gram. It's like they're selling half grams. Why they're selling half grams is ridiculous. Number one. But most of them are selling half grams for like $28 to $35. It's that's way too expensive.
Oh yeah, the price of flour and everything. I've been on my weed maps, looking around what everybody's trying to sell stuff for, and I was in Carlsbad about 3 weeks ago, and PVP was selling a sour Kush banner for $20 a gram. I couldn't believe it. People were buying it. So that'll just give you an idea of, the prices here are just crazy to any other market that I know of.
Duke, I got another good question for you. How do you feel about the current testing situation in our state? I think we have a huge problem.
I think we have 2 labs left, and both of them are technology-wise under-equipped.
I agree, yeah.
The lab standards in New Mexico would probably not hold up to neighboring states.
So have you tried to bring in any labs for testing?
We've talked to a number of out-of-state labs, and I think it's likely that there will be 2, 3, 4 more competitors.
I wouldn't call them competitors. I would call them. They're going to have to handle the business. The current 2 labs. They're like you said. They're not only under equipped, but that's not just equipment.
I wouldn't argue.
Yeah, and we need to have good medicine, and the heavy metals thing, and all that stuff. Mold. People get away with all kinds of stuff, and it's really sad.
But people got to be realistic about what it's going to take to have a truly competitive, state-of-the-art, technology-wise lab. We priced it out, and I think it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. I think we should force the labs to operate at that standard, to have the current state-of-the-art type of equipment, a fully functional lab to meet the full panel of tests being expected in New Mexico. It's going to take about $2.5 million. Now, I like Barry at Rio Grande and I like Kathleen at Scepter, but I don't see either one of them today stepping up to the level of technology investment that it's going to take to get there. So I'm questioning who's going to do it.
Oh, Jeff Apodaca bought Rio Grande, Duke.
I'm well aware that Jeff bought Rio Grande.
And we all know that.
Right. But like I said, it's one thing to buy it out. I mean, I made an offer to buy it myself. There's no big secret. And I only thought it was worth so much, and somebody obviously thought it was worth more. But
would that have been a conflict of interest to own the lab where you test your stuff?
When we made the offer, and I still don't believe it should be a conflict. I mean, dairy farms test their product. Pharma tests their own manufactured product. And remember, in New Mexico, we've got the secret shopper clause where it allows the state to come in and take product and randomly test it. So if you think about it, the person who puts it on the shelf is most at risk for recall. So they should test their product.
Yeah. When was the last time the state did a secret shopper and did that?
Well, they were going to do it, but as you recall, Larry, we got the courts to rule their regulations were arbitrary and capricious, so they threw them out.
Uh-huh.
That's one area we'll argue all day long, where a facility, obviously do your own testing, but a facility, a dispensary, it should never own their own testing. You can have the greatest testing, the greatest separation, and go down the line through every state, and you're going to find manipulation and corruption based on money and profiteering and paying off. That's one of the huge question marks in the industry right now, is the testing policies that are going around from state to state.
Well, there's certainly always going to be an element of greed in this industry, and in every industry. It's not just here. I mean, there's just people out there that operate that way, and it'll always be there. But you know what? We can only change it by doing our own, our own operating in the right way, and hopefully other people will do the same thing. But
well, it's not even the greed necessarily; it's the big players paying for the higher testing. And
okay.
So where testing becomes, and I'm sorry if I wasn't, let me clarify, where testing is so important to the industry, right? We understand that the industry insiders understand that terpenes is the future. That's what's gauging everything, right? But THC is what sells, right? I can charge way more for a higher percentage THC than I can for a lower percentage. Doesn't mean that it's better necessarily, but that's what the market is gauged towards. So the industry is paying to play. They're paying higher prices to get higher testing remarks, to put that flower out when it could be garbage, right? We got a sample of a flower out here for a retail recently that tested 42%. All of us are calling bullshit.
I'm calling
bullshit.
They claim
It's testing, right? Exactly. And so that's where I'm saying it becomes a pay to play, where your bigger players can pay to get the testing remarks they need because they've been doing business longer with a business that has been there, right? Like, that's what we're trying to alleviate, is make it fair for everyone.
Where do you think the reality of where the high end of the best cannabis is testing for real? Where's the reality of
So it's not, for me, and you can go along the industry, and this is where the industry's going. It's no longer becoming about THC percentage. That is obviously the way the industry is gauged, and that's what's making the money.
Right.
But those that are deep in the industry understand that our terpenes are what gauge. So I will tell you that I would take a low percentage THC with a great terpene profile any day, and any consumer that is passionate and understands the medical properties of the flower will tell you the same. Gotcha. They'll take a lower percentage with a higher terpene profile than a high THC percentage with a low terpene profile any day of the week.
Totally agree. But what about, can we call them cannabis terpenes? Because I worry about people spraying mango terps. I mean, a molecule's your molecule. I know. Nick, I'm sure you're a scientist, so but I think that I would rather have cannabis-derived terpenes myself.
And that's what we're talking about, right? The true nature of the flower.
Right.
The conversation of organic to cannabis-derived terpenes. That's a completely different conversation, right? On the basis of we could have that for hours, but we're talking about the terpene profile that is unique to the flower that's being grown, right? It'll change dramatically from grower to grower. The uniqueness of the plant is that it never is consistent, right? It can change and adapt. The grower, whatever you're adding, are you even on your calcium and magnesium? What are you adding in salts? Are you stressing? Like all of these factors play in there, right? But for me, the most common that I see in the retail in Cali that sells is sitting around a THC percentage of 19 kind of being the lowest, and around 25%. We can sell those all day long in a range of $25 to $65, depending on the quality, right? Greenhouse, step unit, indoor, so on and so forth.
You're talking an eighth, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And now, mind you, the market has shifted completely. Everybody in every state, and you'll see it as well. And this is where I say whoever can get on top of the clones now is going to be the savior of the market, because everybody gets short-sighted on cannabis. They can't produce enough. There's not enough to go around. There's clone shortages in every state, right? And so there was that the market went up and down, and now last year where everything was high prices. You're looking at $22 wholesale indoor aids, $25, $30 wholesale, and you're looking at concentrates. Your fire bubble hashes at like $25 to $30. Your fire concentrates, going anywhere from $15 to $25, depending on quality. All of that has shifted down, and now it's evening out where the price of distillate, where last year was going anywhere from $35 to $4. You're seeing it at about $1,800 to $25 now. 3 for just that 99% CAD 3 type quality.
Wow, boy, everything starts in California, so there's a lot we can learn from other states. Because...
and everything doubles when everything that goes from Cali starts doubling and tripling the further it goes east coast, right? So when you're looking at a market in New Mexico right now, I can't look at it from the same basis of Cali. I think a gentleman said you're getting $70 half gram like fire concentrates. Well, that's your market right now, because I can sell on the, illicit side, you can sell it for 40 and 50, no problem, right? It's with quality. And so you have to look at two things that are gauging your market. Your market is gauged by ultimately your illicit market, and also by the quality of consumer basis that they're going for. What is your consumer basis buying? Are they THC oriented? Are they looking more indica sativa? That if any of you have any access to it or don't know, BDSA is a wonderful platform for getting the analytics to what the industry is doing. You can go through them, get your analytics, and you can see what the top companies are doing. And that's a very wonderful program that we use to kind of show what the industry is doing for our retail. And so, it's gauged by many different factors. So when I look at the New Mexico market, I'm looking at it from a couple different standpoints. Like the gentleman said, I think, Duke, that July date is going to be extremely important, because I'll tell you, I've read it the same way, and I'm anticipating doing a few things and writing a few letters and having things ready to go, with the understanding that it is a civil right at that point. Now how the police look at it, much different story. But That's kind of how I've been looking at the industry in New Mexico, dealing with the illicit side for so long, and then coming to Cali to see the way it's done and the way the dynamics have shifted, in New Mexico. Ultimately, it's probably shrunk right now, but with everything they're doing out there, it's about 2 years behind from what the technology and the industry is really shaped up and doing. You're probably 5 years behind the grow standards and the way that they're growing out here relative to the living soil and that sort of thing, right? And so it shifts depending. New York is probably the same, but a bigger market. New Jersey, they have and can encompass a freeway that encompasses many different states. So their market is 3 times as much. It can grow just as fast. They have a huge underground market as well, right? And that's going to be also how it builds for you guys, is how the state looks at the equity program. How are they going to let those that grew the industry come into it? Are they going to make it, impossible, a giant leap? Are they going to help bring them along or make it easy to encompass that? That will dictate a lot of your market as well.
Duke, am I right that the social equity is actually separate from the legalization bill? They separated it?
Social equity bill, if you're talking about expungement, that piece is separated. Now, the New Mexico program doesn't have a social equity component like most states, where we reserved a fixed number of licenses or offered some incentives. We actually don't have any type of social equity, other than our general cost of admission is pretty low right now, so that everyone can join, but there are no set-asides.
Why was that?
I think there was a debate about social equity. Is it really working? I mean, I watch Arizona very closely, and they set aside some licenses, but it's almost predatory in nature that the social equity, the winners are likely going to have to partner up with an MSO. In many states, social equity just hasn't come to fruition. It really hasn't been able to be used by those who should have benefited from it. So I think there's this luster that has been taken off social equity, good or bad. It just hasn't worked very well so far.
So,
Duke, that is one of the, I apologize, Duke, that's one of the best, I hear a lot of talks, and it is an important part to the industry, but that's one of the best ways I've heard somebody really get down and explain that. And I would agree with you in everything that you said. And I think the cheap entry to the market is a great way to give that accessibility. It will help the market flourish. That was a really, really well put, man.
absolutely. Thank you, Duke, for that. Anybody else want to talk about any questions, any answers? Okay.
Right? Yeah. No questions, I guess. I mean, there's just so much more that comes up every week. I mean, just today we found out more information and, all this good stuff. So, I mean, some of it's good. I think just a lot of it we're just anticipating. We all just want to hear what the fuck's going on. Where they're going to be at, what's going to happen, how many plants producers can grow, et cetera, et cetera. I just hope they can figure it out, because they have no clue.
Duke, how do you think the like the handcrafted market, the little cottage market of premium cannabis will do against, and MSOs coming in and so forth, how that's going to affect, quality of the products and so forth?
Well, first, on the MSOs, I just don't think we're going to get a lot of MSOs in New Mexico. I think that these guys are playing a stock market valuation game, trading paper, not cash. So it's just, whatever, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. And so they're dancing like monkeys for Wall Street. So it doesn't help an MSO to put a pin in the map and say, gee whiz, I'm in Gallup, New Mexico. it really isn't as attractive as being in Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Right. You think our state is too small that an MSO is going to make a killing here? That maybe they just want to add another, pin in the map, I guess is what you're saying. But as far as I know, I think we have at least two that are coming in.
We had Vareo arrive, and they bought Red Barn and Gallup. And have they done anything? Honestly, no.
Yeah, actually, they sent me an email today, and they had a special flash sale, and each gram, a half a gram, was $35 of concentrate. That's what they have going.
Holy shit!
Absolutely, yeah. So who were they bought out by? Because they were originally from Colorado, right? It was a company from Colorado that got rid of.
No, they were bought out by a Minnesota group, Vareo.
Okay, I know, but originally, the original license, I think.
Red Barn?
From anyway, okay. So, what are they in a lot of states?
They're out there in probably 5 or 6.
I think.
So I don't think we're going to get the MSOs, but I think where we are going to have some growth is in the craft cannabis market, and I know that it sounds romantic and it's promising, and I do hope that we have that bed and breakfast kind of specialty cannabis tourism. I think we're a state that could really benefit from that. So I'm hoping more on that end. I believe in the micros, and I think there will be a proliferation of micros, but I fear for the micros, and I've got to say this, 200 plants is kind of a tough number of plants to make a thriving business out of it. So, I don't know if it's going to give them enough room.
But maybe if you're, you have a consumption lounge and you get a 200 plant grow, and you can supply your own brand to the consumption lounge, and you can also buy, from other producers and bring in craft stuff from other people. I think it's going to be a really great part of the industry.
I kind of get it, Larry, but I've been asked to talk to different organizations, and I got to be real honest. I love New Mexico. I love New Mexico. I went to high school there in Alamogordo. I went to middle school in Silver City. I went to college in Las Cruces. I love New Mexico. They've been good to me. But let's lay out the real opportunity. 50% of the population are Medicaid patients, Medicaid enrollee. 75% of the births in New Mexico were delivered through Medicaid. We're number one in poverty. We have a household income that's 45% lower than the state of Colorado. We're number one in DUI. We're number one in suicide. We're number 49th or 50th in education. It's not the most entrepreneurial market out there. I hold great hope. And this week alone, I was in Lordsburg and in Deming and Alamogordo and Tularosa, Carlsbad, and Artesia.
Are you running for governor?
No.
Okay.
I got better things to do with my time. But our communities are deteriorating. I think we can hope and wish and pray all we want. And I think we've got the best sunshine and the best countryside. The sunrises and sunset are great. But we have something that is lacking, and that is simply we have a dearth, a shortage, a lack of capital. And just because we wish it and want it doesn't mean it's going to suddenly appear.
No, I totally get you on that. I agree, but I think the other thing we also have is we don't have a lot of population here. We have to be careful, how many dispensaries and growers and stuff are going to open up, because, yes, there's going to be tourism at certain times of the year. You'll finally get your balloon. I can't wait to see that, by the way. And, in the wintertime, there's skiing, and there will be tourism. But I think all in all, I don't know, that we have the population unless this pandemic is going to be a baby boom or something. But I think that some people might have a little bit of a delusions of grandeur that it's going to be able to support all of this.
Wait, real quick. So, Duke, you're getting a balloon at the Balloon Fiesta?
Apparently, Larry's promising me.
Well,
one.
he's always wanted his balloon. I want you to have
Larry,
your I want you to have your balloon, Duke. I really
I
do.
want it to be the Ultra Health International Balloon Fiesta.
Oh, there you go. Well, you know what? I'll bet. I don't know if you're going to get that, but you might get your balloon.
Can you imagine get high at the Ultra Health Balloon Fiesta? Come on.
All right. How about a consumption lounge balloon? You can get high when you get high.
There you go. I'm all for it.
I mean, they have the consumption areas. They can do all kinds of interesting stuff with that law. I was just reading it a little while ago again.
Well, I don't know if the balloon FAA is going to like that.
Possibly. I don't know. Who knows? But you're in the air. Who's going to know?
You realize Canon...
Designated drivers.
Kodak dropped the Balloon Fiesta. Now Canon has dropped the Balloon Fiesta. And I did contact the Balloon Fiesta and said, "You're looking for a sponsor?"
Have you heard back from them yet, by the way?
They said, "Don't call us. We'll call you."
There you go. Anyway, Duke, I got to thank you for coming on. This was really a great experience and an opportunity to hear from you. And I hope that you'll join Clubhouse again in some of the rooms, because I think you'll find that there's a lot of incredible people from all over the country, experts like yourself, that have been in the industry for a long time, and they're sharing their knowledge and so forth. That's what Clubhouse is all about. So I welcome you here. I don't know that you've been on here a lot, but thank you for doing this tonight.